What if everything you thought you knew about, well, human history, our place in the universe, what if it's just scratching the surface?
Exactly, like the tip of a cosmic iceberg.
Yeah, we're talking about ancient phenomena, things that seem to echo right into today's world, suggesting our stories may be much older, much more connected than we think.
It really challenges the standard narrative.
It does. And look, you'll want to stay with us through this entire deep dive because the connections we're finding, the implications, they're genuinely surprising. It might really shift how you see our place in the cosmos.
Absolutely.
So today, we're diving deep into extraterrestrial contacts. Specifically, we're focusing on this object that's causing quite a stir, the Buga Sphere.
It's fascinating.
We've gathered insights from all sorts of places, historical accounts of contactees, right up to the latest scientific analysis of this new artifact.
A real mix of sources.
Right. And our mission here is to unpack what these sources tell us about, humanity's past, present, and maybe even our future with non-human intelligence.
While also trying to cut through some of the noise, the disinformation, and the official stories that often cloud these topics.
It's definitely a compelling journey. Our usual history books, they leave so much out, don't they?
They really do. But when you start connecting these different dots, these varied sources, you get this incredible picture, something much bigger.
Okay, so let's start by looking back, because contact, well, it's definitely not new, is it?
Not at all. History's full of these accounts.
Think about Billy Meier, the Swiss farmer. His first claimed contact, way back in 1942, long before this was a common topic.
1942. Wow.
He said he met beings from the Pleiades, and their first message apparently was deep concern about Earth's ecosystem, especially atomic energy.
And this was before Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Years before. That's what's stunning, and he documented it all, photos, videos. Pretty amazing considering he only had one arm. He even supposedly prepared with yoga in India.
And what's striking is how consistent that core message is.
Right.
Across different people, different places.
Totally. George Adamski, his Venusian contact in 46, those classic saucer photos everyone's seen.
Then Daniel Fry in 49, similar message again. Planetary well-being.
And Vlado Kapitanovich in the 60s, talking about the Eponians from the Peruvian mountains. Same thing, concern for the ecosystem.
It's this recurring theme.
Yeah, and it wasn't just individuals either. In Brazil, near Brasilia, there was that group with General Showa. They focused on things like light curvature, bending light,
Advanced concepts.
and planet preservation, non-contamination. Then the Rama mission in Peru, starting 74, emphasizing self-knowledge, planetary preservation, balancing humanity and nature.
So the consistency is one thing.
But it's also how relevant it feels now. Decades before we really grasp the threat of nuclear war, these people were talking about it. It feels, well, alarmingly prophetic looking back.
And some sources suggest it went beyond just warnings. They hint at actual intervention.
Right. The Meier accounts claim the Pleiadians warned him in 42, then boom, 1945 happens.
But other accounts suggest more active roles in preventing things from getting worse, like the Cuban Missile Crisis in 62.
That moment, the world held its breath.
Exactly. Allegedly, this huge object, like 400 meters long, appeared right over a Soviet base in Cuba.
400 meters, that's enormous.
Huge. And supposedly, it led to a B-12 mission being aborted, and the whole crisis started to de-escalate.
So, if that's true, it raises a big question, doesn't it? If they can intervene like that, why do conflicts still happen, or is it more subtle?
A guiding hand, maybe? It's hard to say. But it does make you think about the nature of this potential intervention.
And it goes beyond just those big crisis moments, too. Bob Salas, the U.S. Army officer.
His testimony is powerful.
He's spoken openly about UFOs just flying over nuclear missile silos and poof, deactivating them, sometimes for days.
Just by being there.
Yeah. He says it reinforces this idea of peaceful, non-hostile entities. It's disarming, as he puts it, the human garbage of war. They don't want these weapons used.
It's a consistent message of disarmament, it seems.
Yeah.
And it's not just military sites. Think about Fukushima in 2011.
Right. The earthquake, the tsunami, the meltdown. A terrible disaster.
Terrible. But observers reported numerous luminous objects, clearly identified as UFOs, monitoring the plant afterward.
Entering.
Yes. And despite the initial fears of massive radiation leakage, it didn't spread catastrophically. Some sources suggest that points to intervention, or at least some kind of containment, preventing a far worse outcome.
And these patterns, they're not just history. Sources point to a spike in sightings after the U.S. authorized Ukraine to use long-range missiles against Russia. That was November 2024.
A dramatic increase, yeah.
Mass sightings over the U.S. Capitol, globally too, December 24, January 25. It really looks like a visible, ongoing warning against escalation.
Which leads to that tricky question. With all these sightings, all this alleged intervention, why is a topic still met with so much ridicule? Suppression, even.
It's a deep rabbit hole. The history of hiding evidence is just pervasive. Roswell, 1947. The classic case, right? Government obfuscation, maybe grabbing alien tech.
And we hear these anecdotes all the time. Physical objects from contacts handed over for analysis, and they just disappear.
Vanish. And sources suggest it's not just accidental loss, it's active, organized.
They talk about a hidden mafia, maybe beyond governments, actively trying to ridicule the whole thing.
And grab any advanced tech for themselves, keep it out of public hands.
Definitely. Remember those mass sightings over New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York recently?
Yeah, what was the official line? Drones.
Drones. It kind of shows how gullible they think the public is, doesn't it?
It really does. So this pattern of suppression, dismissing things as drones, it's clear. But what if that pattern's finally breaking?
What if there's evidence now that's undeniable, tangible, and it's being studied out in the open?
And that right there is where the Buga Sphere comes in. This feels like a potential game changer because it just defies that history of concealment.
Found March 2nd, 2025, Buga, Colombia.
Filmed by loads of witnesses, civilians. And the crucial part, it stayed in civilian hands.
Which is so different from past incidents where evidence just vanished into classified projects.
Exactly. You have to give credit to people like Jaime Maussan, the Mexican TV owner, journalist, ufologist. He secured it.
And he's pushing for transparency, public research,
Yeah.
even with all the pressure he must be under.
Absolutely. And the collaboration is key too, right? He's working with UNAM.
The National Autonomous University of Mexico. That makes it a civil public research effort, not military, not hidden agencies.
Openness. It really could set a new precedent.
It really could.
Okay, let's pause here for a sec. If you're finding this deep dive as fascinating as we are, and you appreciate getting these kinds of insights, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button if you haven't yet.
Yeah, and sharing this with a friend helps other curious minds find us too.
Definitely. And leaving a rating or review on whatever platform you use. That tells us you want more explorations like this, digging into science, history, consciousness, all of it.
Your engagement really does fuel this whole mission. Okay, back to the sphere.
Right, the Buga Sphere itself. The science is, well, it's mind-bending. Diameter, 28.18 centimeters.
Pretty specific.
Made of something called duro-aluminum with 12% silicon. But this isn't just regular aluminum.
No, described as 3 to 4 times denser and harder than our toughest aluminum alloys.
Think about that. A material tough enough for deep space and the bottom of the ocean 10 kilometers down. The pressure there is immense.
Incredible engineering.
Yeah.
And internally, it's not hollow.
Not at all. Multiple scans, tomographies show it's packed full of different materials, split into 2 hemispheres with this distinct ring structure inside at the equator.
And it gives off energy and receives it, radio frequencies.
They varied at first, but now it's stabilized at 2.13 hertz. Very low frequency.
Perfect for long-distance communication, potentially. They're actually trying to establish contact with whoever sent it.
Imagine that conversation. But the internal structure, that's where it gets really wild. Optical fibers.
Right, riddled with them, even inside the metal structure.
When I first read that, optical fibers inside solid metal, it just doesn't compute with our current tech, does it?
Not even close. It's like a flying fiber optic network.
Yeah.
Completely beyond us right now. They're doing carbon dating to figure out how old it is. That could be huge.
Absolutely. Which brings us to how it flies. How does this thing move?
Well, one leading theory goes back to Charles Darwin, surprisingly.
Which Darwin? Spiders, right.
Exactly. His observation of spiders flying using Earth's magnetic field. The idea is the Buga Sphere generates its own magnetic field.
To navigate using the planet's electromagnetism.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Which hits very strongly at a free energy source.
The kind of energy, as the sources suggest, the great powers don't want us to know about.
That's the implication.
So if this is real, what could it mean for energy? They're planning experiments, right? Spin it in a lab.
Yeah, try to reactivate the internal bits, maybe get it to levitate, validate the magnetic propulsion idea.
Imagine unlocking that kind of clean energy, given all our global problems.
Wow. But it's not just tech. The sphere carries a message, a literal inscription.
On the northern hemisphere, this unique design, like a mandala or an antenna.
And an inscription. Initial AI translation. from Italy
Hmm.
using ancient languages. It came up with something profound.
What was it?
The origin of birth through the union and energy in the cycle of transformation, meeting point of unity, expansion, and individual consciousness.
Okay, that's heavy. In a good way.
Deep stuff.
Yeah.
But then Dr. Luci Bunini on the research team dug deeper.
What did she find?
She identified the script as ancient runes, Elder Futhark specifically, linked to the Druids' ancient mystical traditions.
Runes, like Viking-era stuff.
Yeah.
On a potentially alien sphere.
Exactly. It's a bizarre, fascinating link for ufology, bridging ancient wisdom and this advanced tech.
So what did her deeper analysis say the message was?
Even more powerful. Synthesized, it describes a cosmic process of healing, transformation, and awakening of consciousness, where true love, union, and consciousness are sources of knowledge, protection, and inner light, culminating in the recovery of a lost cosmic consciousness.
A lost cosmic consciousness.
Yeah.
That's a message of massive hope, isn't it? Delivered by this sphere.
Huge hope. And the design itself is layered with meaning too. The rune pattern. It mirrors the Vigvisir.
The Viking compass.
Yeah. The symbol that means you won't get lost in storms or bad weather, even if you don't know the way. It implies the sphere is a guide, a pathfinder, carrying this message so it won't be lost.
Wow. And the antenna part, the copper bits.
They form a Sriyantra, that ancient Hindu mandala, the 9 interlinked triangles, symbolizing creation, the union of masculine and feminine.
And crucially, our sources say the union of science with consciousness.
It all ties together, technology and spirituality interwoven.
And it was made by hand, right? Not machines.
Apparently so. Clear manual inscription. Suggests real intention, a personal message. It's not just cold tech, it's communication.
And then, just to double down on the reality of this, there's another one.
The Jumbo Sphere. Filmed June 2025 near Buga again. Identical design.
Reinforces the authenticity, the technology. It's not a one-off fluke.
Makes it much harder to dismiss.
So this tech holds potential for clean, free energy, something sources say is actively suppressed.
By those hidden powers, yeah.
And where do they think it came from? Not necessarily space.
Well, the leading theory among some researchers, drawing on past alleged contacts, points to intraterrestrial civilizations.
Inside the Earth.
Or closely connected to it. The idea is that historical messages indicated intraterrestrials would appear first during a planetary transition, then extraterrestrials later.
So the sphere might be a message from within, or closely tied to Earth's own systems.
That's one strong possibility being explored. Makes it even more fascinating, doesn't it?
It really does. Okay, so let's recap. We've gone through this long history of contact, consistent warnings about nuclear war, about needing to care for the planet.
We've seen the shadow of disinformation, the efforts to hide things.
And now we have the Buga Sphere. Tangible, publicly studied, carrying this profound message about transformation, consciousness, and hinting at incredible technology. Free energy.
So let's leave you with this thought. If this sphere is an ancient messenger, a courier of the past, delivering this timely message about cosmic consciousness and free energy, what does it truly mean that this knowledge, this object, is now out in the open, accessible to everyone?
How could that speed up our collective awakening, help us move past fear, past conflict?
And maybe more personally, what step will you take towards that expanded consciousness?
Something to think about. If this deep dive sparked your curiosity and maybe expanded your view a bit, please do subscribe to the deep dive for more explorations into the unknown.
Share it with anyone you think needs this kind of insight.
And definitely leave us that review and rating wherever you listen. It genuinely helps us bring these conversations to more people.
Continue your journey of discovery with us. Explore our other deep dives.
Until next time, keep digging.